Hello, welcome back. So this is gonna be a quick video on doming. I've had several people ask me, what is doming? How do I dome? What do you do? So I'm gonna try to go over it real quick. These are a couple sets that were poured a couple days ago, during which I swear I still had COVID brain. You get that. Anybody who has COVID knows you kind of get into a fog. Process of doming. Doming is basically putting a clear layer on top of your project that you push to the edge without letting it go over. So different than a flood coat, it's a controlled clear coat. One of the things you need is really good lighting, because if you can't see, you can't dome. Which brings me to the point that I am blind in one eye and can't see out of the other. I have reading glasses for everything. I can see at a distance. I can't see anything up close. So I got myself a pair of these. I call them Dr. Magoo because they're so thick, but they're magnifying glasses. They are heavy, so I put a little headband and cinch it to my head so they don't fall off. I use these little medicine dosing cups because you need such a small amount for doming. For me, it's a lot easier to mix in these because, it goes from 1/8 of an ounce, all the way up to a full ounce. And a popsicle stick. That's all you pretty much need. Maybe a toothpick, depending on what you're doing. A nice, smooth, clean work surface. I say that because I have done projects in the past where I have poured on the other mat that I have that is a hot mess, and it leaves marks on the back of these coasters. So I always try to make sure I have mats that are dedicated. These are just silicone mats I got off of Amazon, but these are dedicated doming mats. It's the only thing that happens to these, because these are still nice and clean compared to the one I pour on, which is a hot mess. So that's what we're gonna work on. I'm gonna show you guys how I dome. So I'll be back. I'm gonna get some product mixed up, the phone and the holder, and we'll go through doming. Okay, we are set up and ready to dome. So a couple of quick things. I've already got my resin mixed up. What I use is a 1-to-1 ratio, and it's a really thick resin. And you're gonna want your resin to be thick before you go to dome. So thick, if it's naturally thick, fantastic. If you use it thinner, give it a few, let it start to thicken up. With doming, the biggest thing is practice, practice, practice. So if you guys are like me at all and you have that bin somewhere in your workshop that's your reject bin because something didn't turn out right, use those to practice on. It'll help. I don't know if you guys can see it, but these have a bit of a sparkle. It's because when I did these, I mixed a little bit of white diamond mica powder into the white just as an experiment to see what would happen, and I kind of like the sparkle on it. The other thing that I was going to show you guys, because when I order my resin, it comes in, I order more in bulk, so I get these big gallon jugs, and for the little cup, it's a 1-to-1, so I need a 1/2 ounce and a 1/2 ounce. Well, it'd be impossible to get that out accurately out of a really big jug. So I do put mine in these clear little squeeze bottles, and I do mark it so I know which one is which, but it makes it a lot easier when you're looking at, I only need 1/2 ounce to get it out, at least for me. My resin is too thick, I can't use a pump on it, so I do use these little bottles. But once you get the hang of doming, you can do it with anything once you know how to manipulate your resin. And the case in point, at one point in time, I been working on Christmas ornaments. So obviously the bottom layer I did in just a glitter, but this top, all this gold, that was put on there by doming, and I literally applied it with a toothpick. So I'd pick it up and I'd start to put it in the middle, and I would just slowly walk it out to the points. So literally, once you get the hang of doming, you can dome anything. So we're gonna get going on these. The way I approach doming is kind of like a kid when you were little, when you would color. I give myself an outline and then I work in the middle. I've seen some people do videos where they put all of it in the middle and they push it out to the end. I've tried that. It never works well for me. It always ends up busting over the edge. So we're gonna work on these two. I know personally I'm a leaner when I dome, meaning I lean my wrist. So I always start with whatever's on my left, but that's just me. So again, I have an ounce mixed up. For me, 1 ounce on the bigger Geo coasters. We'll do 2 coasters. So without further ado, let's get started on this. So I'll give it a good stir. I'll take my stick and I'm gonna wipe the bottom part of my stick just so I have control of what's coming off of my stick. So, and then I'm gonna start closer to the edge and I'm just gonna let this kind of fall off of my stick. And then I'm gonna push it to the edge. So again, I'm gonna go around the whole edge of the coaster like when a little kid and you would color and you would always, at least I did. I always did the outline first and I'm just gonna walk it to that edge. And again, I have my Mr. Magoo magnifying glasses on, which help me see that I'm going. So I have a lot, so I'm gonna tap it off away from the edge and then just walk it to that edge. And just keep going all the way around. So see, I'm letting it fall off of my stick. Again, a lot, so I'll start away from the edge and I just start tapping it out to the edge. And I'll do it all the way around the coaster. Now, be mindful of where your cup is because you can get drips off the edge of your cup from the outside when you wipe your stick. I've done it and I have had my cups. There's a hair. Look at that. All right. I've had my cup over my edge of my project and sure enough, drip hit perfectly that it landed right on the edge and over the side. If that happens, don't panic. Have a wet wipe handy. If you can get to it, hurry up and wipe that edge where it's going down and it'll help. Control it so you don't lose your dome. Again, I'm just walking it right to the edge because doming, you don't want it to go over the edge. We're not gonna flood coat. So again, just wiping it, taking it right to the edge. Just kind of let it just come off your stick naturally. Again, so I'll just pick up more in the stick and keep pushing it and kind of walking it right on that edge. It's like you're creating a perimeter, basically, is your perimeter wall for where you want it to go. Again, if I think I have too much, I'll go more towards the center, drop more of it, and then just keep that thin line coming out. I said, if you have really good lighting on your project, you'll be able to see where it's gone and where it hasn't. So again, and I'll go all the way around until I end up back where I started. So just feather it around. So you can see it's not a lot that's coming off the stick. And we're almost back to our start. Walking it around right to the edge. And like I said, there's a lot of different methods out there that people use. I have discovered this works for me. Okay, so all the edge is done. So now I'm just gonna pour some in the middle. Wipe my cup so I don't get those drips. Now I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna start pushing this out. Almost like you're spreading frosting to that perimeter that I laid. And I just wanna barely have the two touch. That way it'll kind of level out that way. Again, I'm just pushing it a little to the edge each way. Okay, and then I'll come back in, kind of pick some up on my stick, and start laying it out. And again, just drag it slowly. Just doesn't take much pressure to get the stuff to move and combine until you touch where you started on that perimeter. And again, you'll be able to see the difference of where you have it, where you don't, and you can go from there. Again, trying to keep my cup over the middle because you can see there's drips. That way if it does drip any, it's gonna land right in the middle of the project and not on the edge. So you're just trying to manipulate it around where it needs to go, but not so hard that it's gonna break that edge. All right, so looks like there's a pretty good level. Right now I'm looking for anything that would look like a dip or an empty spot, a void, and I think we're okay. So I'm gonna grab this little torch that I have. I just picked this thing up at Walmart for like 12 bucks. And I'm gonna torch that top and get the bubbles out. So I can see right there, there's a void where there's no resin. So I'll just kind of, just a little drop and fill that void. And go back over it with my torch. Try to get bubbles. I've got something floating. So I'm gonna grab a toothpick. So I'm gonna get that out, whatever that was. And then I'll just look. And sometimes there will be little bubbles. So I just barely touch them with a toothpick, trying to get those up and out. And again, I'm a balancer. My wrist has got to be on something to try to keep my hand steady. Otherwise, I don't think it would go very well. All right, a few little bubbles. Just barely touch them. I'll bring them up. Stay away from the edge. All right, I'm gonna hit it with my gun again. A little torch. Just trying to get those bubbles out. Make sure there's none. And there you go. That's been domed. And that's all that I do. Like I said, I just walk it with that stick all the way around. I create that outer perimeter, and then I put in the middle, and I just barely push it to that perimeter I laid. But that's how I dome. So I'll get the rest of them done. I hope that maybe it helped you, made a better understanding. Maybe you learned a technique that would work for you. Again, practice, practice, practice. If you have pieces you don't like, perfect ones to practice on. Make sure your resin is thick when you do it, and just take your time. Popsicle stick, toothpicks, and that's all there is to it. So if you liked it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, keep watching. We will have some other projects coming up, not necessarily 3D blooms, but some other stuff that I was like, I want to try. So we'll see you next time.